What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex. You are watching the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we're talking about all things that matter to me in the world of movies. In this video, I'm not going to be talking about anything original, simply because there's nothing original coming out of Hollywood. All I'm going to be talking about is remakes, reboots, and sequels. That's all I'm going to talk about in this video, just because there are a lot of them coming out, and apparently a lot of them are coming out from movies that came out in the 80s. Let's start off with what Warner Brothers is planning to remake, and that would be the Gremlins. And the Gremlins came out in sometime in the 80s, and then they came out with the sequel, Gremlins: A New Batch, in 1990. Both films were produced by Steven Spielberg. However, this remake will not be produced by Steven Spielberg. He has no interest in having a Gremlins remake, but it is happening. As for me, I don't really care for a Gremlins remake, simply because I thought the original was a great movie. It was very charming. The second one got kind of weird. It was kind of fun, but a remake with CG effects and the Gremlins are probably going to look uglier. Yeah, I don't really care for that. I think that they should leave Gremlins alone. Stick to the classic. Another thing that I feel about the Gremlins is that I feel that there's going to be too much emphasis on how the new Gremlins are going to look, and I'm just worried that they're going to change the look of the Gremlins, and you know that really affects how fans will feel about a Gremlins remake. You can't change the way they look. They look great in the original, so don't mess with the classic. Anyways, moving on, let's talk about another movie that is getting another installment, and that would be Goonies. Goonies is actually having a sequel made, and Richard Donner, the original director of the Goonies, wants to make it happen. And what's very interesting is that he wants the original cast of the Gremlins, or not the Gremlins, of the Goonies back for this new sequel. Like, everybody's is so much older now, and he wants to bring them all back. I think that's kind of a tall order, but if they brought them all back as adults, and then maybe the story will be about their kids, or maybe the adults go for one last adventure, that might be kind of cool. Goonies was a really great film. It's a great adventure film for kids. But it was just a lot of fun. And maybe Richard Donner, the original director, he can bring back that type of adventure excitement for this for the adult version of the Goonies. So that is what's happening. And speaking of the 80s, one TV show that I love to watch was Battlestar Galactica. And a Battlestar Galactica movie is happening, and so far the first thing they got in terms of getting this project moving forward is that they're getting the writer of Transcendence, Jack Paglin, to write the screenplay for Battlestar Galactica, the movie. And while I haven't seen Transcendence yet, it is coming soon. It's got a very sci-fi premise, so they look towards Jack Paglin for putting together a script for a Battlestar Galactica movie. And that's something to look forward to. I enjoyed it as a TV show, and also I just like a good space a space age sci-fi movie. It takes place entirely in space. You know, we're getting Star Wars. There's not a whole lot of films out there that just take place entirely in space, where it's about like space battles, right? So it'll be cool to see a Battlestar Galactica movie. Moving on, let's talk about another another film from the 80s, which is also getting a sequel, and that is it's a sequel to a reboot. All right, now Breck Eisner will be directing the Karate Kid Reboot sequel. Now, we already got a reboot, or rather, it was a remake, okay? The Karate Kid with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith was a remake. But now, it may as well be a reboot, because what they did is they rebooted a franchise, and now they're giving it a sequel. So Breck Eisner will be directing for Sony. There's no release date, but the fact that they got themselves a director means that the project is moving forward. Now, one thing I gotta say about the Karate Kid remake, reboot, whatever you want to call it, is that I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's got a fresh tomato in Rotten Tomatoes, which suggests that it is a great film. Like, it's a good film. Now, a lot of people are against it simply because the original is a classic. Yes, it is a classic, but this remake actually was done quite well. And Jackie Chan put in my opinion, his best performance as an actor. I thought that was great. I felt that Jaden Smith was a little bit too young, but still, I just felt that the story was all there. I think it really hit home for me because it was a story about bullying, and of course, well, you know, like a kid like myself, you know, I experienced that, you know, when I was younger, and that's why I felt like I connected with the character a lot. And if you connect with the character, then you connect with the story. All right. So at the end of the day, I thought it was a great movie. All right. Now here's another film that came out in I think the 90s, not quite the 80s, the 90s. That's going to be remade and turned into a franchise, and that is, do you remember a time travel law enforcement film called Timecop? It was starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, and in fact, it was filmed right here in Vancouver. Well, Universal Studios is rebooting it. Now, it was never a franchise to begin with, but they want to reboot Timecop because they potentially want to turn it into a franchise with Timecop 1 and 2 and 3. And they're getting, they already got the writers. They got Brian and Mark Gunn, who are brothers, and they wrote Journey to the Mystery Island, okay? Journey to the Mystery Island, all right? So, man, you know what? Timecop was never that great of a film to begin with, but I felt that, you know, the premise is pretty interesting. The concept of not just time travel, but trying to prevent things from happening, like crimes from happening by time traveling. That's a neat concept, okay? They explored this concept many times in other films, but essentially it's still the changing history concept, all right? That formula. And you know what? If they reboot it, I'll watch it. The original wasn't that great. In fact, it was a very crappy film, but with a good concept. But if they're going to reboot it, they're probably going to make it better. I mean, you can't make it worse than the original, all right? Anyways, hey, you guys remember a He-Man movie, right? Dolph Lundgren? Well, Masters of the Universe is moving forward because Jeff Wadlow, the director of Kick-Ass 2, is going to be writing the script. He's going to be handling the screenplay duties for Masters of the Universe. Director John Chu dropped out, and I think it had to do with script reasons or creative differences, because he was on board. He was really excited to be on board because he just finished G.I. Joe Retaliation. Now, he wanted to tackle another film based off of a cartoon. Right now he's working on Gem and the Holograms, okay? Can you believe that? He walked away from Masters of the Universe to work on Gem and the Holograms. Ain't that a joke? Anyways, they don't have a director for Masters of the Universe, but they do have a writer, and like I mentioned before, it's Jeff Wadlow, who directed Kick-Ass 2. Alright, and now speaking of other films from the 80s, which also was a cartoon, Ghostbusters 3 looks like it's back in development hell. Now, Dan Aykroyd has the script. He has a general story, working on the script, and but no director anymore. Originally, they wanted to get the Lego movie directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, but they're no longer interested in directing Ghostbusters 3. I thought that they would have been a great combination. I mean, they did such a great job with the Lego movie. I felt that, oh man, they would have been great for the Ghostbusters 3 because the tone is so appropriate. And I think they could have pulled it off, but Dan Aykroyd just can't seem to get a break. Ghostbusters 3 has been in development for so many years, and he still can't seem to get a break. It's almost like it's never going to happen. And I think at this point, I'm not going to hold my breath anymore because it's just so hard to get this movie off the ground. I mean, Bill Murray's not interested. Unfortunately, Harold Ramis passed away. Ivan Reitman is not interested in directing. The Lego movie directors are no longer interested in directing. And Dan Aykroyd, he just can't seem to put a script good enough to get enough filmmakers on board. Anyways, so that's all I gotta say with all these movies. Now let's talk about Star Wars Episode 7. finally, let's start talking about something a little bit more substantial. And Star Wars Episode 7, of course, being directed by J.J. Abrams, he is so good at keeping everything under wraps. So he's continuing that tradition with his films, and it looks like they're good to go. They're ready to film. They're in fact they're starting to film like pretty soon, in fact. And the only substantial piece of news that I have for you guys is that Peter Mayhew is back as Chewbacca. Chewbacca is back. Can you believe this? The Wookiee, the classic Wookiee character that we got from the first 3 films is coming back in Star Wars Episode 7. And that is great news. I mean, we got R2-D2 back. I don't know if they're getting Anthony Daniels, but that would be great to have him back. And as for the rest of the cast, as far as I know, Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher are back. As far as I know, things could change because, well, they are kind of old. But anyways, another thing that I got to mention to you guys is that Star Wars Episode 7 will be filming in Abu Dhabi for 4 weeks, and it's most likely it's going to be Tatooine. You remember the desert planet Tatooine? Well, it looks like they're going back, and it'll be great to see them go back to Tatooine because Tatooine is probably the most visited planet in the Star Wars universe, and you know, it's a great nod to the fans. It's great to see familiar territory, but of course it is also great to see the new and unexplored planets, at least ones that we haven't seen yet, because they have some great concepts for the planets. Coruscant is a city planet, all right. Mustafar is a lava volcano planet. I forget what they have a water planet too. I forgot what that one's called. But then there's Geonosis, which is a mountain planet. So very cool, man. They have a lot of interesting concepts, and looks like the planet they're going to be bringing back is a desert planet of Tatooine. So very, very awesome. Anyways, I've talked about a lot of films. Let's just do a recap. I've talked about Star Wars Episode 7, Gremlins Remake, Goonies Sequel, Karate Kid sequel, Battlestar Galactica movie, Masters of the Universe remake movie, and a Timecop reboot. Alright? Is there any one of these that you are interested in watching? I'm only interested in Karate Kid 2 simply because I enjoyed Karate Kid. Alright? Of course I'm interested in Star Wars Episode 7, but the other ones, they're not on the top of my list. I also talked about Ghostbusters 3. Anyways, as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation, follow me on Twitter, @RaginNation, check out my photos on Instagram, @TheRaginNation, and I'll see you next time. Peace. Email, I guess, standalone mutant character, or rather a Marvel character, to carry a film. Now, the last time they did that,